So it's been many months. This whole thing has been a many-month process. And to explain it and to explain the fact that it's now pretty well concluded, I mean, there are still loose ends like finding help. That's the final stage of this thing, is getting in a night nanny and, making sure I'm currently on nighttime duties. So this will also explain why there haven't been many podcasts recently. But the logistics of it were, we sold our house in Las Vegas. We bought another house in Las Vegas, a much nicer house, which I'm currently speaking to you from. And we sold our house in San Jose. Then normally we moved to Las Vegas, but we had to go down to Southern California relatively quickly because of the potential of our girls, as I'm referring to them, twin girls, being born. And every part of this process has taken extremely longer than originally anticipated. The average, extension time required for this has been about 50%, to some cases 250%. And what we found through this is that there is a new normal, which is just unbelievable. I don't know if the world can continue to survive with a new normal like the way it is currently. And the main thing is that at every point, we haven't been concerned about money, which is an amazing luxury that I'm very thankful to have in my life. Only at this period of time in my life has it really been present. But, when people just outlandishly double the cost of something, even into the, $5,000-$10,000 range, I've just eaten it to get to this point. And it's actually quite extraordinary how many of these interactions have happened, including things like, so for example, the girls were, born in a hospital. The hospital lost all the paperwork that we produced. Now, they made photocopies of the paperwork, so we have the photocopies, but they lost their copies. And then proceeded to use some very interesting social engineering not to admit that they'd lost the copies, but to say things like, we never filled out these forms that we have photocopies of. And, at every iteration, whether it was you need to pay double because you have books to move from San Jose to, Las Vegas, or the guy who just randomly broke our windows in San Jose, coming, 3-4 days before the closing of our house in Las Vegas, which we put, $5,000 to the buyer to say sorry for this mentally unhinged guy who no doubt is going to be continuing to break their windows. I mean, gosh, the new normal is very real. And I think probably will add, and we find this because we are trying to do things in the world. Obviously, thankfully, we're now stopping trying to do things in the world. But, this thing that has kind of continued on has permeated every aspect of this thing. And the twin girls, absolutely miraculous and unbelievable. I mean, really, the ends to these means, so to speak, to have a nice house with the girls relatively comfortable. Just these things coming together have really been miraculous. And look, I think here, although I'm complaining about a bunch of little things, actually, having the main thing that I've gotten from this, if I could share it with my listeners, is that I know very little about genetics. I thought I knew a lot about genetics, but to have two girls that are so different in every aspect that I realize that there's this kind of shadow genetics, this, what I would have thought to be recessive genetics that have come together in one of them, and the other one has, what I would have thought to be dominant genetics. And they've just kind of swept the genetics evenly. So I now have a daughter who is kind of red-haired, Irish looking. It just amazes me that these are the genetics that are in part hiding inside me. And then I have another daughter who almost has a Jew fro, right? Just really fine, features from the Ashkenazi side of my family. And they divided so perfectly. I mean, it's extraordinary to me that either these are familiar genetics or, perhaps more importantly, that when they do the scanning for genetics through, the embryo phase, that they are, in fact, dividing towards known genetic groupings, which means a daughter who looks particularly kind of Irish, like she could be from Tipperary or Cork, is just a grouping of genetics that they already have in their system. So when they analyze the embryos, they just say, okay, clearly identifiable embryo of a specific match of a relatively high rating. And similarly with my Ashkenazi appearing daughter, same thing, right? So this is the only way I can think of it, with just because I would have thought the genetic spread would be way more even, or more importantly, here we're talking about phenotype, right? So yeah, the whole thing is just amazing to me, and to see it unfold in real time, and in particular to see the girls' personalities very slowly emerge, but also how they have completely different dietary. I mean, the whole digestive system seems to be completely differently built in both of them. So yes, I'm getting way more wonder out of this thing than I ever could have imagined going into it, which means complaining about the new normal and all this other nonsense and what have you. I just have to have something curmudgeonly to say in these recordings. But yeah, I'm in a very strange place that I've not been in for any other part of my life. And to look at these two in particular and to think about the experiences that they will have, the things that they'll see that I'll never get to see, and just these kind of things is pretty overwhelming. But I'm also, as I pointed out perhaps somewhere through this recording, working nights as well. So that has been the past, I don't know how many months it's been. I mean, I've kind of recorded bits and pieces through the process, but this is kind of the process in some regard coming to some kind of conclusion. Now, when I go back to work and do all these other things, then it really will be some kind of conclusion. But I just wanted to put this audio out to give a sense of, through many parts of this time period, which we really took about 3-4 months, I have woken up and not known where I've been, literally. And I think the move part of this, the San Jose, Las Vegas, Southern California, primarily Irvine in Southern California, and then back to Las Vegas. This move over a kind of 3-month period where in Irvine we were there 5 weeks, 5 days, 5 weeks, 4 days. We had no way of going into it that we were going to be there that long. In fact, the anticipation was that the girls would arrive much earlier. In fact, for twins, which is incredibly rare, they nearly went to term. And the decision for them to come early was really more a productive one, although it did have some complications. But the overall nature of it now is that you have these two just divergent things who are, providing wonder at every step of the way. So, yeah, for all the nonsense, I think it was well worth it. And perhaps we could have done things in a slightly different order. I mean, all those things are pretty speculative. But practically, this thing is miraculous. And for all the nonsense that has been created around this, the bureaucracy, counter-bureaucracy, what have you, what has come out of this, it's been truly amazing. So I'm in no way losing the wonder in any of this. And I've kind of thought about what this means to my podcast recording, and I'm able to record currently because I normally do the night shift. In fact, I'll be doing the night shift tonight, but I was woken early and thought, well, let me have some lunch and see what I can record the podcast. And I've got to get my podcasting room in order because the mythical shelves, should be arriving sometime in the next few days. So I've got to get my podcasting room in a state where these shelves can start being located, etc. So when I have shelves in, you can't imagine the productivity. Tom Barbalet in San Jose, signing out.